These developers own the biggest games on Roblox, but how did they get to this point? Well, today we're going to break down the story of Roblox's biggest games. Starting with the third biggest game on Roblox, Adopt Me, a game which has over 38 billion visits. But the journey to get there was not easy for the owners, and their story is crazier than you think. This all starts with the creator, Newfissy, who joined Roblox in January 2011, and for the first few years he was just enjoying and playing Roblox like a lot of us, but after a bit, he didn't want to just play Roblox games anymore, he wanted to make them. So he began probably practicing and learning how to code, hoping to achieve Roblox stardom one day. For the next few months he would launch game after game. However, these projects failed. He kept trying again and launching more, and those all failed too. It was looking like his development journey was coming to an end, and at this point he could have quit and gone back to just playing Roblox, but he still wasn't ready to give up. So he decided to give it one more shot and release Build a Plane and Fly It, which started off slow but due to it being quite unique at the time, started to take off. While small and got players in the community started to form around it, he had done it, his first successful game, nearing 80,000 visits. After constant failure and failure, he had a successful game, but this was only the start. This showed him the potential his games had, so he continued developing, and had a few games get similar success, but after a few more years, everything would change for Newfissy. In July 2014, after a lot of failures and some success, he took everything he learned and released a Roblox Plague. It was a success, but this game blew up even more than before, and he started seeing numbers he could have only dreamt of. Huge creators were making videos on it, and it was overall viral in the community, eventually crossing over 7.7 million visits, but there's a problem. Despite several successful projects, he still didn't quite reach the top of Roblox like he dreamed of. He wasn't even close, so his project only ever ended up motivating him even further to continue as a game developer. He continued working on his past projects for a few years, and then eventually started working on another project, and this time he had a different plan. In his efforts to achieve Roblox stardom, to reach further than he'd ever gotten before, he noticed that tycoons were very popular at the time, so he decided to make his own, that being Treehouse Tycoon, which was later renamed to Treelands. And due to it being pretty unique from every other simulator, it took off, gaining over 15 million visits, and it was growing fast. This seemed like the moment he was waiting years for, but something unfortunate happened that would forever end the development of this game. One of the senior devs for Treelands passed away, and that was the event that would be the end of Treelands, indefinitely putting an end to the project, and having a significant effect on Newfissy mentally. He decided to move on past Treelands and the entire group, leaving it as a legacy to the late developer. Newfissy then took a break, but he had another problem. All his games were dying, so he decided to make a new game. From his last game, he was inspired from current trends, and this time it'd be no different, but he had huge plans, so he couldn't work alone. He recruited another dev, Bthink, and together they started working on an adoption roleplay game, not knowing this would change their lives forever. This new project was ambitious. It pushed both Newfissy and Bthink, both on working relentlessly, perfecting codes and models, and after several sleepless nights, time, effort, and dedication, on July 13, 2017, Adopt Me was released, and it failed. All his other projects were dying or abandoned. This was his last hope, and after years of development, he might have just lost it all. For a lot of developers, a rough launch would demotivate them, but after a short moment, they got back up and started releasing updates, and this game would take off more than they ever could have imagined. Once again, Newfissy saw a trend and added his own twist to it, so his game started to blow up. Update after update, the game kept gaining traction. The game eventually got 70 million visits by the end of 2017. After years of failed projects, years of trying to reach Roblox stardom, they had done it, and this game was growing at a pace that no one's ever seen on Roblox. So they kept working harder and harder, more updates, growing the team, and more. After a lot of work, Newfissy made another decision that would change the game forever. Even though it's untraditional, he decided to add pets to the game, which ended up being a huge hit, and it only boosted the game even more. By this point, they didn't just reach Roblox stardom, they reached a point where they're some of the biggest developers ever. There was no stopping Adopt Me after that point. On June 15, 2019, the game reached 440,000 concurrent players, and it showed no sign of slowing down. By December 2019, only after 2 years, Adopt Me reached 3 billion visits, and next year would end up being even crazier. In April of 2020, they released an April Fool's update. They gave them another boost, getting to around 680,000 concurrent players, surpassing some of the biggest games beyond Roblox, resulting in articles being written and a lot of journalists viewing the game differently. By July of the same year, they had reached 10 billion visits, and by 2021, they reached 20 billion visits, becoming the first game to do so. Then in July of 2021, Adopt Me broke records by reaching almost 2 million concurrent players. No other game has broken this record yet, including Adopt Me themselves. At this point, they'd taken over Roblox to a point where their updates were so successful that it would break the Roblox servers. Everything was going perfectly, but then out of nowhere, the developers would lose everything. Suddenly one afternoon, out of nowhere, Adopt Me was deleted by Roblox themselves, reverting the place to a default Roblox place. Suddenly overnight, it was all gone. Years of work just gone, cutting the player count down by about half, ending the game's success in an instant. The developers woke up and saw this had happened. Not knowing what was going on, they shut down the game and made it private. They quickly tried to figure out what happened, and several hours later, they got their answer. It turns out it was just a Roblox glitch, so it was eventually fixed and resolved. It still hurt the game, but now they were back and ready to take over Roblox again, which they did. They fought through the drama and past failures, and for the next few years, they became one of the biggest games ever created, and have expanded even beyond Roblox. These devs are reaching points they never even knew was possible. If you thought this story was crazy though, our next one gets even crazier, because next we have the second biggest game on Roblox, Blox Fruits. A game which has over 46 billion visits, and much like with Adopt Me, the journey to get there was not easy for the owners, and the story might be even crazier. Quickly before though, if you're enjoying, please subscribe. Anyways, everything starts with two creators, two brothers, MyGame43 and Rip Indra. Both of these creators are OG Roblox players, MyGame having joined in August of 2008, and Rip Indra in May 2009. Let's start with MyGame43, who initially had dreams of reaching Roblox stardom, but as a trader, not a game developer. He spent countless days and nights trading and became fairly successful. However, he eventually took a break to launch a game. At this time, Temple Run was a viral game, so he recreated on Roblox, which did really well, gaining over 2.4 million visits. This inspired him to launch more projects, however, they would fail, and this took motivation away from him as a developer, so he went back to trading. He seemingly was done with game development, and instead continued to focus on trading for the next several years. But that's where Rip Indra comes in. Unlike his brother, he was fascinated by game development, and had dreams of Roblox stardom. He was quiet for the first few years, but around 2010, he started releasing his first projects, putting everything he got into these games, but he failed. At this point, both brothers failed in development, and it seemed like it was over, but Indra was still determined, and his next project would change everything, because it was Dragon Ball Z, The Ultimate Adventures, which was a huge hit, gaining around 3 million visits. So he followed it up with Dragon Ball Final Adventures, which got over 12 million visits. By this point, Rip Indra was super successful, and he realized that his anime games would always blow up, so he wanted to create another one, but he had a different plan. Suddenly he disappeared, making a lot of people believe he had quit Roblox. But he was working behind the scenes, not alone this time, but with his brother, and they created the Gamer Robot group together. This decision to team up would be the start of a journey that would end up changing their lives forever. One of the first games they released together was Elemental Wars on October 9, 2016, and it was an instant success. After failure, they were now on the correct path. They continued to release games until they released Elemental Battlegrounds, a sequel to Elemental Wars, another huge overnight success, over time reaching over 400 million visits, but they still wanted more. After a few years, they realized simulators were the next trend, so they decided to make a new group and a new game to capitalize off the simulator hype, and it worked. This game would end up gaining over 35 million visits. For the next few years, they just worked on these games. However, over time, these games would slowly die out. And even though they found success, they weren't quite at the top of Roblox just yet. So they had started working on another project, causing the updates for Elemental Battlegrounds to slow down, and eventually become extremely rare. This caused the community to start pressuring them to update the game, but behind the scenes, the two brothers had a plan to take over Roblox. From Indra's past, the new anime games worked well, and they learned a ton from their viral games together. So they were working on a project that combines everything they learned so far, even if it meant ignoring the community they spent years creating. This was a massive risk for both of them, however, they were ready to take it. On June 2nd, 2019, they released Blox Fruits, a culmination of Rip Indra's history with anime games and MyGame43's experiences as a developer, which eventually was renamed to Blox Fruits, since a large part of the game is about collecting different fruits which give you different powers. Almost instantly, overnight, Blox Fruits was a huge success, and they had a lot of smart techniques to keep it growing, adding more fruits, expanding the map, and even letting players decide what they want next. The game kept players engaged, and players kept coming back since they kept getting the content they asked for. They continued doing these strategies as the game would just keep growing bigger and bigger, getting billions of visits and millions of active players. They completely took over Roblox. All the failures, risk, and stress were worth it, and before they know it, Blox Fruits would rise to over 46 billion visits and become one of the biggest games to ever be made on the platform. But our next story is crazier because it's Roblox's biggest game ever. The last game being Brookhaven RP, a game which has around 60 billion visits, and the journey to becoming the biggest game on Roblox was insane. This is the creator, Wolfpack. Wolfpack joined Roblox on May 9, 2014, and much like other creators on this list, he started out as a normal player, playing games. In particular, Wolfpack seemed to love FPS games, first-person shooters, so eventually he decided to pursue game development, hoping to make an FPS game himself. He got to work, and after several months finally had a game, that being Criminal vs. SWAT. And to his surprise, it blew up. It was a huge success overnight, reaching 309 million visits. He went from a normal player to getting close to the top of Roblox, and it gave him all the motivation to continue developing games. He knew that he could make it. He was getting close, but he wasn't there quite yet. With this success, he started working on a new project, and he had a smart strategy. His strategy was that if one game did well, he tried recreating it hoping to get similar success, and this strategy would change everything. However, it didn't quite work at first. He began releasing more FPS games, hoping to get the same success as he did with Criminal vs. SWAT, but it just didn't work out. He couldn't reach that same level of success again, let alone surpass it. So he decided to try a new genre, A very random switch, but this was potentially due to a rise in these games' popularity, that being roleplay. So he began creating a game where he could do anything in a vast city, and roleplay with others. He would call this game Rocadia, and once more he poured everything he got into this, and tried something new. On February 4, 2017, Rocadia was released, and finally after some failures, it succeeded, getting to over 80 million visits. Even though this wasn't close to Criminal vs. SWAT, it was a huge hit, but he was still far from the top, and he was still chasing to get a bigger game than Criminal vs. SWAT. So he tried something new yet again, a survival game where you have to survive a variety of disasters, inspired by survivor disasters or natural disaster survival, once again following trends in other viral games. And on April 15, 2018, he released Mad Dream Survival, and this game too did not get anywhere close to the top. It was another failure, and at this point, he's starting to doubt himself. He had really tried everything, but nothing would get him to Roblox stardom. But this is where strategy comes in. As mentioned, he typically recreates games that were successful, so his next goal was to recreate his roleplay game and just overall make it better. This decision would end up not only changing his life, but Roblox as a whole forever. So he got to work, learning from his experiences and mistakes with Rocadia, putting everything he had learned from his mistakes, from his failings into this project. By this point, it was seeming like if this project failed, it could be over, so it's all up for this game to perform. It took a lot of time and effort, but on April 21st, 2020, Brookhaven was released. This was it, his potential last chance at Roblox stardom. Everything led up to this moment, but it was worth it. Brookhaven was almost an overnight success. Never before has a game on Roblox blown up this fast. It immediately started gaining players, and by June 16, 2020, it was already at 6,000 players. Then by October of the same year, it reached 200,000 players. The game's growth did not stop, and by December of 2020, it had reached 550,000 active players. And by July 15, 2023, Brookhaven has surpassed Adopt Me's total visits, a goal no one thought would ever be broken, especially that quick. The reason why it got so popular so quickly remains a bit of a mystery, but it's potentially due to how simple the game is. No matter what language, anyone can understand it within seconds, and since it's roleplay, the players can do whatever they want. There was no stopping Brookhaven. Wolfpack had done it. All these years of almost making it to the absolute top of Roblox, getting a taste of it as Criminal vs. SWAT, he had done it. He had succeeded. Brookhaven RP became a genuine exception. Out of the millions of games published on Roblox every day, this one quickly surpassed every other game on Roblox, milestone after milestone and record after record, and is still growing and maintaining that spot comfortably today. Also, because Brookhaven is hosted on Wolfpack's Roblox account, he also has the most visits out of any Roblox account with over 60 billion. He truly took over Roblox and is the creator of the biggest game ever made. These were the stories of the 3 current biggest games on Roblox. And if you take anything away from this video, it's keep trying, because it'll not always work out the first time. Please subscribe and click here to watch more Roblox stories. I'll see you in the next one.